Today we're talking about how the INFJ intimidates others and how to harness it. A lot of people go through life and they wish other people would be intimidated by them because then they would feel powerful. Most of the time, people completely ignore them. People don't really care about the opinion. It has no effect on other people. Us INFJs, we really come from a different perspective because in the end, what do we really want? We want to be understood. We want to be appreciated for who we are. But what do we encounter over and over again? People getting triggered by us. People getting intimidated by us being us. That's at least how it feels like. It feels like the more I'm being myself, the more I dare to, really be uniquely and authentically me, the more people act in a way they only would act if they were intimidated. So, of course, my conclusion is they're intimidated, they get triggered because they lash out. We've talked about this in other videos that others seemingly get mean towards the INFJ without us ever having had a conscious thought of, I want to harm the other person. But the truth is the following. We trigger people. We trigger people a lot. And you have experienced, and every one of us has experienced this. So we can tell ourselves as much as we would like that we don't trigger other people, or we would try to make even more sacrifices so we don't trigger other people, so people don't get intimidated by us. But at some point, we really have to come to the conclusion that we are triggering and we are intimidating, and that we can never really find true peace unless we accept this about ourselves and get love and appreciation and a purpose for our life through the fact that we're intimidating, that we're triggering. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we can use this quality of ours as a unique selling point, not in a way of, oh, others are going to like me for this, but in a way of, this is probably one of our superpowers. How can I use this to be of service to the world? How can I find my purpose, live out my purpose, so I personally know that I'm the best version that I currently can be. And so therefore, there's such a level of self-love that automatically I fill up so much of my own tank and of my own cup of energy that there is real love happening. I can give love freely, and I'm also getting so much love back. So let's go down that rabbit hole today because this is a juicy topic. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life. And if you want to take it a step further, get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide today. It will show you step by step how to get the entire process started when it comes to you creating your INFJ Epic Life, what the mindset is around it, and what the steps are that we all need to take. Because guess what? As INFJs, mindset work is never going to be enough. It always requires taking action in the real world despite our performance anxiety. So everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description. So I'm going to get to the main point right away. We are not triggering enough. We are not intimidating enough, because we have to get to a point of, if I had to make a choice, am I rather going to speak my truth, or am I going to be nice? Am I going to make people feel good in the moment? Or am I going to do what I believe in the moment is the best for them long term? I can make mistakes either way, but what is my approach? Am I going from the perspective of, I want to make you feel good with your self-sabotaging behavior, and from time to time, I, lean into being myself because guess what? I have needs too. I want to be appreciated for who I am. I want to be seen. And, the more I'm myself, the more I'm going to trigger people. So I'm either going to do that, or I'm going to say, I'm going to help people and I'm going to love them and I'm going to guide them, but not at the expense of me being myself. And that's the other direction. That's the healthy direction, because that is loving people through loving yourself first. And so when you are being yourself, when you as an INFJ are really living out your purpose is to trigger people to seeing the truth. That's it. You have an understanding of a universal truth. You might not be perfect at it. I'm definitely not. But we do have an understanding in this. And in so many cases, we have an understanding of truth that other people don't have access to. And we can either gatekeep it, or we can live it out and, see what the consequences are. And the consequences are going to be that some people will not be able to handle it. Some people will not going to be able to be around that. And some people will be able to see it all. Some people will be able to see glimpses of it. And they can make the choice for themselves. Am I going to get closer to that energy, or am I going to get further away? And so for the most of us, we're not at this place yet where it is so evident that we're being ourselves. So I, for myself, can definitely say I'm way more in this direction than I was, let's say 15 years ago. The reason why I started this path was because I really was all out. I didn't have any energy left. I was depleted. I was really, pushed to the corner. I didn't have another choice. And hopefully through other creators and other people's voices, you don't have to go to that place. You can really say, no, I'm going to lean into the healthy direction. And the healthy direction is, if I have to make a choice of, am I going to trigger people and they're going to leave me? Or am I going to be less triggering, meaning I'm going to be less authentic so they stay in my environment? Then I'm going to choose the first option. Because never in my life have I experienced myself, have talked to an INFJ, and believe me, I've talked to, thousands of INFJs. I've been doing this for over 10 years, So yeah, it's almost 10 years. In the summer, it's going to be 10 years. So there's a lot of confrontation with other INFJs. There's a lot that I've seen, that I've experienced, and I can tell you it never leads to a happier life. We are never going to be perfect, but it will always be better to lean towards your authentic self than to, create harmony. Just because we're able to create harmony in the short run, that does not mean that this is what we should be doing. Because yes, we're meeting a need, but a very low level need. Somebody's acting out, they're not, doing the thing that is best for them. They're acting in self-sabotaging behavior, and we're all about, oh, you're so good. You deserve to be loved the way you are, and everything is great. And we continuously stay in this relationship dynamic, although that other person is acting out towards us. And they're making us feel bad and whatever it may be. And we're saying, oh, I can take it. I have so much to give. Like, I have such a strength within me. I can be your punching bag. But you're not going to be the only person that they're around. And other people cannot take it the way you can take it. And so we have to understand that the reason why we stay in this situation is because we prove to ourselves through that, oh, see how strong I am? I can stay in this situation. And at the same time, that person isn't going to leave us because nobody can, take all their pain like I can. But are we really helping that person? Are we really helping ourselves? No. At the end of the day, it's going to deplete all of our energy and they're going to continue their self-sabotaging behavior. It might be self-sabotaging behavior that is going towards themselves. It might be self-sabotaging behavior that goes towards somebody else. And we're not going to be able to save the entire world and, fix everybody who comes around us. But if people get triggered by you being yourself, then they have something that they cannot face. Being your authentic self as an INFJ means that you're living out your truth, that you're acting according to your own value systems. And as the rarest personality type and as a type whose main function isn't readily available for everybody to see, it's going to trigger people. So my husband, for example, an ISTJ, I would say in so many areas, really okay with himself. Like, he's really not at a place where I would say he's doing a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors. Does he trigger people? Probably not, because he just stays in his lane. He's not, getting in contact with other people who have different value systems than him and all of that. So a healthy ISTJ by default isn't going to trigger people the way we trigger people. Their purpose in life is a different one. Our purpose in life is to show people the truth, and then they can decide what they're going to do with it. And if we continuously trigger people, we're not triggering them enough. Because if you trigger them enough, people generally will stay away from you. I don't trigger absolutely anybody anymore. I don't know that feeling anymore. I know it theoretically, and if I really think back on it, it was the most painful moments in my life. It was this continuous thing of me being myself is not lovable because that's what we've been taught. Because the more you speak your truth, the more you live out your truth that isn't readily available for everybody, that people cannot see. When you are living that out in front of them, you're being a mirror. That is the INFJ's biggest superpower. When we are being authentically ourselves, we are being a mirror. And everybody who comes into contact with us recognizes quickly, oh, this is what I could do to be a better version of myself. We are not triggering people if we're not being the best version of ourselves. And we're also not triggering people if we're never rocking the boat. We're triggering people when we dare to be a little bit more of ourselves. So if we don't rock the boat at all, we make people feel like it's all right, the way they act with their self-sabotaging behavior and how they're being mean towards others or whatever it may be. And the moment we just don't want to walk on eggshells to such an extent, it's like, oh, you're an INFJ. How dare you do this? How dare you act this way? You are triggering me. The reason why we trigger people so much is because of that difference. They don't like to see it because the truth hurts. But it's on us to live out and speak out the uncomfortable truth, because only through that people can really grow. We're showing people the way to their own personal growth journey. And it's not about, oh, I see, that you're acting this way and you're saying this and all of that. That is helpful, don't get me wrong. But the biggest step and the most courageous step, the step that is going to make you feel like you're living your INFJ epic life and you're proud of yourself, is if you lean into, and I really can only stress this, we're talking about leaning into. Nobody's going to do this perfectly, but to say, how much can I live in my truth? And I am willing to alienate people at first, because I trust that I'm just living out my truth and my authentic self. And when I'm doing that, I'm still going to be open to other people's opinions, but I'm not going to allow chaos to come into my life. And through that, people will have a choice to say, oh, am I going to get closer to that person or not? So if you're being all that you are and you don't allow anybody into your closer psychological space, if they're not honoring your boundaries, and that means I want peace. I don't want people to constantly nag me. I don't want your negative energy. I'm not allowing that energy. If you are putting your negative energy towards me, I'm putting my walls up. And people will say to you, oh, you're not open to constructive criticism. Let me tell you something. We're very open to constructive criticism. What we're not open is to negative energy. So we're going to be way more open to somebody kindly telling us, listen, I think you're making a mistake in your thinking process. Just hear me out. So you're thinking like this, but I think you should take this into consideration. What do you think? I promise you, INFJs would be all over this. They would think about it and then they would honestly say either, oh, you're right. Like, I totally get it. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Or they would say, thank you for having the kind intention of telling me this, but I actually don't believe this is true. This is at least what we're thinking. What we're not okay with is somebody putting their negative energy onto us. It can either be through people telling us, oh, you're not good enough because you made that mistake. That's negative energy towards us. What we're also not good at and what we don't like is if people get upset over other people or circumstances and they let that energy out towards us. In both cases, we are the recipient of negative energy and we're not having that, because what we need in order to be our best selves is peace. And so if you are being yourself, you're creating peace for yourself, and people who are not in alignment with who they're supposed to be and who they are going to get triggered by it, because we're just exuding this peace and they see that they're not having it and it makes them uncomfortable. That's just as clear as it gets. So my point is, don't lean into, oh, how can I trigger people less? What is wrong with me? But rather think about it as a good thing and rather say, yes, I might be triggering people, but I'm not going to allow chaos into my inner peace. Not happening. And when you do this, you're going to be triggering people to a whole nother level. And the fun thing about this is that once you lean into this, it's not going to feel like this. And on top of that, you're actually not going to make people uncomfortable. Because if we don't act from like this healthy space, we really are chameleon-like. We're making it easy for other people to continue in their self-sabotaging behavior or in their unhealthy ways or whatever it may be. And then we dare to be a little bit more of ourselves. And that's when people get triggered. But if you are from the get-go who you are, people are not going to get triggered. Because they themselves can make a choice. Oh, is this a truth I can handle? I'm going to get closer to that person. Or is it something that I don't want to see, so my subconscious is going to take me away from that person? I will tell myself a story why I don't like this person and I go away. You don't want people to bully you. You don't want people to nag you. You want all of that. Then be more of who you are. The transition period will be hard, for sure. But that's a transition period that theoretically can take like a month. Because once you're on that path and you know, I'm not going to pretend to be this meek version of myself that could never hurt a soul. Yes, your truth is going to hurt people. But you're doing this because it's your purpose. It's not your purpose to hurt people. It's your purpose to say, this is how you could live life. You could live your life authentically. This would make us better people. This would make us more in alignment with our true gifts, whatever they might be. And I'm willing to stay in my truth rather than to be liked in that instance over here. Some people will get it. Some people will be appreciative. And you'll see sometimes people after 10 years changing their behavior because of what you started being. And if you would have never done that, they would have never come around. Things like this happen. Other people get it right away, and some people will never get it. And that's on them. But if you feel like I'm constantly getting this feeling that people are intimidated by me and they want to keep me small, then it's because of this aspect. You're not being yourself enough. Once you lean into this, you're never going to trigger people again because you don't allow people into your space who aren't peaceful. The less people are able to create their own inner peace, the less they're going to have access to you at a deep psychological level. That does not mean that you cannot be friends with your parents. That does not mean that you can't be friends with your childhood friends, whatever it may be. It just means that psychologically speaking, you're not going to tap into their energy if they're not healthy. And through that, people will have a motivation to get in alignment with who they truly are if they want to get closer to you. And guess what? It's a nice energy. Yes, it's triggering, but through that, transformation happens and you feel better about yourself. You're actually bringing peace. You can either sweep it under the rug and make people feel good in the moment, or you can remove the rug altogether, expose everything, and let people decide for themselves how they're going to deal with it. Because one way or another, you are part of humanity. The way you are is perfectly fine. The way you are is necessary. The way you are is needed. So you not being yourself is not acting in your own best interest and in the world's best interest. Every single one of us has a gift they bring to the table. Every single one of us. And I'm not talking about us INFJs, I mean every single person. And it's on every single person to decide, how am I going to go through life with this? Am I going to gatekeep it? Am I going to, try to make myself comfortable? Or am I going to say, I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing? I'm going to have people dislike me. I'm going to have people step away from me. But I'm doing this because I have a bigger purpose, because I want to help in a bigger way. And if that means that some people will not have the capacity for it, then that's a price I'm willing to pay. And through time, you'll see, the more you're able to keep your peace, the more people are going to be attracted to that. But real peace isn't, oh, I'm not rocking the boat. Real peace is, I'm being all that I am. And if I need a lot of space for myself, then I'm going to take it. I am going to also find a healthy outlet for what I can give that isn't necessarily in the closest relationships that I have. Because if you have big stake relationships, as in romantic relationship, parents, really good friends, your work, stuff like this, it can get really tricky for us because we don't want to hurt people. We feel that. But, the more you really step into who I am, and no matter where you go, you lead with this, you'll see how you get those reactions less and less. You are a lion. You're a strong person. Don't let your anxiety of being perfect or of doing something that people are not going to get keep you from your purpose. Everything you need, you have it in you. And I promise you, I know this for sure, that the more you lean into who you truly are, you're going to find peace for yourself and you're going to create more peace in others. It might not be perfect at first. And of course, people are not going to like that new version of you because it makes them uncomfortable. The people who always thought you were the person who, liked them with all their sabotages and all of that, suddenly you don't have space for them anymore. You're not open to their experience anymore. Well, they have to adapt if they want to get closer to you psychologically. And you'll be surprised how many people do, but you have to give them time because this is not something that happens overnight. People have to change their self-sabotaging behavior. They will need time. Everybody does it, and we do it too. We do so much self-sabotaging behavior, particularly through this, I'm keeping myself small in order not to rock the boat. That's self-sabotaging behavior. And it's on us to change that narrative. It's on us to change the plot. And it's on us to finally have some fun with it. Because guess what? An INFJ's life doesn't have to be that serious. We can, create amazing results. We can live our INFJ epic life. We can see how we're continuously, living more our truth. And it feels like we're authentically ourselves. And we don't feel like life is happening outside of us. And we can still have fun. And we can enjoy our life. And thankfully, we have communities like this that, give us a sense of we're not alone in this. Because we're not. So let's go after our purpose in life and enjoy this entire process and not continuously question what is wrong with us, why do we get abandoned, but rather say, guess what? I like who I am. I like what I stand for. It feels so great being all that I am. How can this be wrong? And if you don't like it, that's on you. Go do your thing. It's your life. You make your decisions, but so do I. I am in control of how I feel. So I'm not going to keep myself small in order not to trigger people. Trigger them even more. Trigger them to such an extent that if they can't stand in your peace, then let them go. Because you're probably not going out of your way to say, you're a bad person and you do this wrong and you do this wrong. All you're doing is being yourself. And if being yourself is triggering people, then think of it as something good. You just have to stay with it. You have to be more of this. You have to be sure that this is the right path. Because of course you're going to make mistakes. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't lean into this. We're going to get better by practicing this approach. So you have everything you need already within you. Go for it. I'm here for you. The community is here for you. And if you want some more guidance into starting that process of really creating a life that makes you fulfilled, that will inevitably help other people as well, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. You can check out the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula first if you like. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.